What's going on, traders? Just want to give you guys a quick update on my thoughts when it comes to the overall market. So let's just get straight into it. So first, we're going to look at the NASDAQ futures because something we talked about in the last video is the symmetrical triangle and the possibility of a bounce off the bottom of the symmetrical triangle. Unfortunately, almost immediately after that video, we started to see the NASDAQ break down, and therefore our projected move started to kick in at around 24,300. We hit that target, we bounced back towards the upside, but unfortunately, it's looking like we're creating a lower high. So we have a high here, lower high here, and another lower high here. And if we manage to break below this zone here, then we're creating yet another lower low. So this is something you definitely want to pay attention to. So what would it take for me to be bullish when it comes to NASDAQ futures, just in case you guys trade the NASDAQ futures? Well, obviously we would need to create a higher high. We would need to break a structure, but we also want to see a break above 25K. We managed to break and hold above 25K, get back within the symmetrical triangle, then there's hope. But if we can really break towards the upside, I mean really gain momentum towards the upside, maybe from some type of head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders pattern here. So you have a shoulder here, head here, and then if you break back towards the downside, right, let's say you head back up here and then you break towards the downside and do one of these, then that'll be your shoulder there. So definitely possible that that can happen. We just need confirmation of it happening. So right now, when it comes to the NASDAQ, I'm not looking at anything crazy in regards to downside. I assume the lowest we can go is about 24,300. But if we manage to break below the supply and demand zone, then I think we're going to head towards these guys right here at around 24,150, more or less. So that's what we're looking at when it comes to the NASDAQ in regards to upside and downside. So again, what we want to see in order for us to be really bullish here is a break above 25K, right? We want to see a break, retest above 25K, possibly form some type of inverse head and shoulders pattern. So you'll have a shoulder here, head here, another shoulder here. And then for us to start talking about previous highs, all-time highs all over again, we want to see yet another break and retest above 25,400. We'll just say 25,500 psych level. And then you're breaking back above this symmetrical triangle. And then from there, we can start talking about, previous highs, all-time highs, maybe even a Santa rally all over again when it comes to the market. But for now, if we're focusing on downside, I would say that we're possibly going to head towards 24,300. Lowest we're looking at is 24,150 if and only if we break back within the zone below 24,500. So that's what we're looking at for the NASDAQ. When we look at the ES, pretty much the same thing, right? We have a symmetrical triangle. We talked about this in the last video, right? You have a bounce here, bounce here, bounce here. You guys get the idea. We broke below it. That opened up the floodgates towards 6,580. We got pretty close. We went as low as about 6,595, and it's looking like we're trying to break below this supply and demand zone. If we manage to break below this, then I do believe that 65980 is back on the table. So that's what we're looking at in regards to the ES. Now, in regards to more downside, I'm just not seeing much. Maybe 6,550 being the lowest. I'm not saying that's the lowest target we can go to. We can obviously go lower than that, but for now, until I get more confirmation, that will be the lowest I'm looking at in regards to the ES. Now, if we're talking about upside, right, we could be looking at the same scenario that we just talked about with the NASDAQ, where you break towards the upside, right? You will have a potential shoulder here, head here. You see a break, retest above 6,710, and then you break back within the symmetrical triangle. You form your shoulder here, another shoulder here. You have your inverse head and shoulders pattern, break, retest, break, retest above 6,811.50, and then from there you're basically talking about previous highs, all-time highs all over again. So a lot to deal with, and I do imagine that Nvda earnings is going to be the catalyst that can cause this to happen. If not, pretty much crash the market. Okay, so if we're looking at the triple Qs, so the triple Qs, pretty much the same thing, right? Right now, I do believe that the triple Qs is trying to head towards this 590 target at around 59.1. You have a bounce here, you have a bounce here, you have bounces here, bounce here, bounce here. You guys get the idea. And we have a lot of space towards the downside, right? We got an empty void down here. So I'm not looking at 580 yet, but it's definitely possible. Okay, it's definitely possible, guys. So you want to be careful. Okay, you definitely want to be careful. But for now, I will have to assume that as long as the triple Qs holds 594.5, then there's a chance that we could bounce back towards the upside. If we can't hold 594.5, then chances are we're heading towards that 590. We give up 590, then it gets pretty bad. Okay, it gets pretty bad. You start opening up the floodgates towards 580, if not lower. So you definitely want to see this 590 level hold. Basically, these guys right here, these guys right here, these guys right here, they all need to hold. All right, they're probably going to step in. Now, like we talked about with the NASDAQ in regards to an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now, this one won't be as clean, but, let's say we bounce off that 590 level, maybe start forming start rallying towards the upside, maybe start heading towards 612, 613, 615. Do one of these, you know, something like that, right? But again, we just want confirmation, okay? So we don't want to jump the gun, but for now, if we're talking about downside, 590 is a potential target. As long as we stay above 594.5, then there's possibility that we head back towards the upside. In regards to upside, we want to see 600 hold. That goes without saying. You get above 600, you're heading towards 603. You got pretty close to that today, right? You broke towards the upside. Bulls tried to, you know, break us above 603. They ended up failing. And from 603, you're looking at 607. 607, you're looking at 611, 613, 615. You guys get the idea, all right? Screenshot, do what you got to do. All right, so that's what we're looking at for the triple Qs. SPY. So I've been saying this all day in the Discord. I do believe this SPY is trying to head towards 654. We got pretty close to that target. We got it around 655.8. But at this point, the fact that we have this wick right here just leads me to believe that the SPY is going to see more downside. And like I've been saying in the Discord pre-market videos, and I've also been saying on this channel that extremely large wicks are not a good thing. At some point in time, you're going to either mitigate half of that or you're going to mitigate the whole thing. So I do believe that we're possibly going to see a move further down if we stay below 660 pre-market or even after hours, right? We stay below 660, and then from there, we're looking at a move towards that 654 target. Unfortunately, I have nothing else below this. I mean, I guess we can head towards 650. That's fine. But for now, my main target that I'm looking at 654. We got close to it, so, you know, a win's a win, but I still think this is very much on the table, just given what we saw heading into close. Unfortunately, we got stopped out of our SPY puts, right? We saw this, you know, this huge fake out right here. We saw this retest towards the upside, and yeah, we got stopped out, but I still believe that SPY is heading towards 654, if not lower. We look at the daily time frame here, and it looks pretty bad, right? But what I will say is that there's a lot of structure here, right? It's not the cleanest, but there's a lot of structure here. So it's going to take a lot for us to really break down that 650 level, in my personal opinion. So obviously we're going to need news, right? Whether it's Nvda news, whether it's, you know, rate cut news, I don't know. But we're obviously going to need some type of news. Now, despite the, I guess, retest that we saw today, I won't even call it a pump. We saw a retest towards the upside, towards that 665 level. Despite us seeing that, puts are still being loaded, guys, right? Don't get it twisted. Puts are still being loaded by institutions. And yeah, there's just hardly any signs of calls being, you know, put into the order flow, right? No one's really taking calls, and if they are, it's really long dated. So, you know, you have calls here for 2026, right? Calls here for, you know, December 31st. So any calls that are coming in, I mean, you can count this as well, because we did see that pump towards the upside, but regardless, just majority of this is all put action, all bearish flow, right? And yeah, it just, there's just no signs of letting up on the upside, or on the downside, I should say. You got these 632 puts that came in heading into close, 1 million, 1.6 million premium. I don't know if SPY is going to head that low by November 28th, but it is something you want to pay attention to. You got these at the ask and above the ask, so that's something there that you can look at. Screenshot, do what you got to do. But yeah, when you're looking at the SPY, right? For now, I'm looking at 654. Now, if we're talking about being bullish, what we want to see is obviously a break above 665 and hold. We managed to break above 665 and hold, and we're looking at 667, and then from there you're looking at 670, 672, 675, so on and so forth. But for now, you're just creating lower highs. You got a high here, lower high here, and if we even do pump towards the upside, it's very much possible we just create another lower high before dumping back towards the downside. But it's very possible that you start forming some type of, you know, bull flag, right? So not a huge bull flag or anything like that. So you'll have something like this, and then, you know, something like this down here, and then you're possibly forming some type of bull flag. So possibly if we do get to 650, I do think bulls are going to step in. I could be wrong. I think bulls are going to step in, and then we just bounce back towards the upside and start heading towards the top, possibly at around 680. We'll see. We will see. And so when we look at quant data and we look at the GEX, I don't know, everyone pronounces it differently. You're just not seeing any positive exposure. You're seeing nothing but negative exposure, like, all day, right? No signs of life towards the upside. And I've been showing this in the Discord all day, right? But, you know, right here, 660, you're seeing a lot of negative exposure at around 660, and then you're seeing exposure gather at the 650 range. Hopefully you guys can see this. Let me check. Yeah, so you're seeing negative exposure at around 650, and nothing too crazy towards the downside, but there's just no life towards the upside, guys. So it's really hard to be bullish right? I mean, despite the little pump that we saw today, it's just really, really hard to be bullish. So again, when it comes to the SPY, I'm looking at that move towards 654. If we don't get it, it is what it is. I mean, we headed as low as 655.8. I'll take that, but I do think it's very much possible that we see a little bit more downside before we start talking about a pump back towards the upside. And then we're just going to speed run through some stocks real quick. Tesla. So Tesla is just forming hideous, hideous structures here. You got lower highs here. You got another lower high here. You have a lower low here. At this point, Tesla looks like it's trying to break down all over again. But if Tesla can't get above 414, guys, I just got nothing for it in regards to being bullish. At this point, I do believe that if we do continue to see more downside, Tesla can start heading towards 380, especially if you give up 400 all over again. So 400 is your key level, and then from there, you're looking at 397. You get below 397, you open up the floodgates towards 393, and yeah, it gets ugly from there. So Tesla, not a fan of in regards to upside. We'll see what happens, but yeah, it's just not looking too good when it comes to Tesla. Microsoft. So Microsoft, we saw some forms of life here. Microsoft is in a very pivotal spot here. You got to bounce here, bounce here, bounce here, bounce here. So Microsoft really needs to hold 492. It looks like it's not holding after hours, but Microsoft needs to reclaim this. I mean, the lowest maybe you can go from here is maybe 489. But if you give that up, I mean, you're pretty illiquid towards the low 480. So you really just want to see Microsoft hold here. And that's pretty much all I have for Microsoft when it comes to downside. Nvidia 184, you gave that up today. We talked about this in the last video. Once you gave up 184, the floodgates were open towards 180. You've broken below this trend here. Let's go to the daily time frame. Bounce here, right? Bounce here, bounce here. You broke below this trend. Right now, you're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. And that leads me to say this, that I believe tomorrow's just going to be a pretty boring day in the market. Historically, Nvidia earnings, the day of Nvidia earnings is pretty boring in the markets, which makes sense, right? I don't think anyone's going to be going too crazy tomorrow until we get that Nvidia earnings, until we get that guidance on Nvidia on whether or not they're still spending, whether they're not spending. We don't know, but I do think Nvidia is going to be earnings. I think that goes without saying. I don't think anyone's assuming that Nvidia is going to not going to be earnings, right? But as far as guidance goes, that's what we really want to pay attention to. Are they still spending on CapEx? Are they spending more on AI? All that fun stuff. You know, what are the chip sales? What is the relationship between China? All that fun stuff. So we definitely want to pay attention to that, because if Nvidia is still spending, then these other companies are going to realize, oh, we've been, panicking for no reason. Let's start spending all over again, right? But if Nvidia is not spending on AI, right, then that's bad. Okay, the market's probably going to see a pretty serious downside, which I'm hoping for. I'm honestly hoping for. It's a win-win situation for me, because if Nvidia heads towards 170, 150, that's a buying opportunity. But if Nvidia pumps from here, then that's great for the market as well. We'll look for another opportunity some other time. But for now, again, Nvidia's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Me personally, I don't believe Nvidia is going to have bad earnings. Goes without saying, and I don't think they're going to have bad guidance either. I think Nvidia, if anything, is going to save the market, and then we create some type of lower high, if anything. Possibly fill this gap all the way up here at 206. But I'm not looking to trade Nvidia. Majority of the time, Nvidia does not make its implied move for earnings. So I would recommend just getting dated contracts. I'm sure a lot of you are just drooling at the mouth to trade this thing for Friday, hoping to get rich overnight. But me personally, I just don't think that's a safe idea, especially considering, once again, Nvidia does not beat its implied move majority of the time. All right, maybe this time is different, but we'll see. All right, so Nvidia, as far as key levels, you really want to see Nvidia reclaim 184. We'll just say 185. So you want to see Nvidia do one of these, break, retest. And then from there, I mean, you're heading towards 193, 194, and then you just want to see a break and retest above 196. And then from there, you're heading towards 199, 200, and then you're basically heading towards this gap fill. So that's what you want to see if you're talking about upside. In regards to downside, Nvidia needs to hold 180. That goes without saying. You get below 180, you're heading towards 177. You give up 177, then 170. All right, at that point, you're just heading towards 170s. So what we're looking at for Nvidia Meta. So we saw signs of life from Meta. If we're looking at the daily time frame, let's reset this real quick. We're really trying to hold this area right here, guys. Really trying. You've got to bounce here, bounce here. You played your games here. You had a false breakdown here, ultimately, and then you formed some type of double bottom. But yeah, Meta's really, really trying to hold here, right? 583 was a good opportunity to jump in. Calls, obviously, you know, that's, I guess that's hindsight, but Meta is really trying to hold here, hold this trend here. So we definitely want to see what happens with Meta. You're very liquid towards the upside. So if Meta can get some momentum here, yeah. And if Nvidia has good earnings, then you know that's going to be a good sign. I will start looking at calls for Meta. That's just me. So a lot of my big plays I'm looking for, I'm probably going to wait till after Nvidia earnings. Yes, we're still trading, but I haven't been really going heavy into anything, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to just how I'm trading this week. And where do we go? Apple. 265 is still your key level here with Apple. It's holding this trend, and you're going to see this across the board. A lot of these stocks are just really holding these major trend lines, bounce here, bounce here. It looks like you're trying to break down here, but yeah, if Apple gives up 265, then you open up the floodgates towards 259, 257, so on and so forth. So you really want to see Apple hold here. Amazon. People are still asking me about Amazon right now. Amazon is starting to look like a buy at this 217. Hopefully we get this 217. But yeah, they're pretty liquid down here. So 217, 211.5. We'll just say 210, just to keep it simple. Bounce here, bounce here. So Amazon is entering that territory where I'm looking to buy. Okay, and look how liquid you are towards the upside. So this is beautiful. This is beautiful. So I'm kind of open and video kind of dumps. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It's not me being a perma bear. It's just me looking for buy opportunities. I know a lot of you aren't investors. You just purely trade. You know, some of you are looking to get rich overnight. But for investors, you're hoping. I'm hoping Nvidia just dumps. I'm hoping it just says, "Nah, we ain't spending crap. Okay, we ain't doing a thing." All right, and boom, everybody panics and you know the world ends. But regardless, that's what I'm looking at when it comes to these names. IWM, because someone keeps asking me about IWM. We are in puts on IWM. They are hedge positions against our calls. We have AMD calls. So far, we're in profit on these. So far, the AMD calls aren't looking good, but it is what it is. You know, that's why we have hedge positions to protect ourselves. But IWM just could not get above 234. So right now, we're looking at a move towards 230. And if we look at cheddar flow, this is supposed to be a quick video. See what I do for you guys? Yeah, you see it here. A lot of puts coming in for IWM. A lot of puts. So 230, 230, 230, 235, 235, 220, 220. So yeah, not looking good. All right, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But that's pretty much all I really have for this video, guys. Bitcoin, I always forget to go over Bitcoin. Bitcoin, yeah, is looking great from the outside looking in, but I mean, you're still below key level here. So, you know, yeah, you reclaim 92K, but you reclaim one decent level out of like 5 major levels that you need to reclaim in order for us to really talk about being bullish here. 95K. So 95K, you need to get above this area right here. So break, retest, and then even then you got to deal with 100K. And then you want to see a break and retest above that, and then you got to deal with 103K. Your ultimate boss here is 107K. Until we get within that range, it's really hard for me to be happy about Bitcoin right now. This thing is cooked. So yeah, if we manage to get back below, and that's another thing, when Bitcoin does things like this, it always does this, right? It swings. It breaks below a key level, it swings in the opposite direction, and everybody thinking, oh, it's okay now. And then it does one of these. You know, it does one of these. It swings, breaks below 92K, heads towards the next key level, 88K, swings back towards the upside, does a volatile move back towards the upside, and then it does one of those, all right? And then you're cooked. So 84K, very much possible here for Bitcoin if it cannot reclaim this level right here at around 95K. But yeah, Bitcoin has a very bad habit of just stopping people out. So do what you want with that. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm speaking too soon, but yeah, it's an empty void down here, guys. I mean, look how liquid you are right here. Very, very empty. There's nothing but depression, despair, and Diddy down here. So it is what it is. If you want to trade this thing to the upside, good luck. All right, but ultimately, that's what I'm looking at when it comes to the overall market. VIX, there is a cup and handle forming here on the VIX. You got a cup. You got a possible handle. You're breaking out. You're looking like you're trying to head towards 28. If we are looking at a pullback sometime soon, maybe a pullback towards that 21 level, but it looks like VIX is trying to head towards 28.1. We'll see. Not looking good across the board, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think everything is just dropping for, you know, investors to start investing into Nvidia, right? Nvidia just ends up saving the day. We dump all day tomorrow. and then, or maybe we pump tomorrow and then Nvidia earnings dumps, right? That's what I'm kind of hoping for. Nvidia just dumps the market. That way we can start buying, investing into things and get ready for the holidays. That would be a great time for buying. But let me know what you guys think. Okay, let me know what you guys think. You guys have been saying some very interesting things lately. I'm loving the conversations you guys are having. Still got trolls here and there, but of course they get muted from the channel, so it is what it is. But otherwise, really appreciate you guys. I'm trying to stick to being consistent with videos. With between the YouTube videos and the pre-market videos, it's a lot, but hey, I'm here. Okay, I'm here and I'm happy. All right, so let me know what you guys think. Until the next videos, traders, have a good one.